Yeah, so I hope we are, Mel. I really do. Obviously, really strong prints, as you mentioned, from Microsoft last week, as well as Apple, which serve as bellwethers of the market because they represent a lot of the market. But I do think if I'm looking at the macro backdrop, we had a GDP print of 6.9%. A lot of that was inventory driven, so it's good to see inventory starting to come back. I am still concerned about supply chains. I'm obviously concerned about the CPI print of 7% that we saw recently and how inflation looks for the rest of the year. I'm hoping it's moderating. I think it potentially is with wage costs and shelter costs. But I will say this from a Fed monetary perspective. I think, there have been folks that have been caught off sides, in looking at this cycle and moving from one, the tapering to a tightening cycle is obviously a very different marketplace and seeking value. So I do think there's some volatility ahead, as we continue to embrace this new cycle and managing inflation and supply chains. But there is upside. As you said, earnings have been relatively strong. I do think we'll have a strong print from Google later on this evening. And I think Amazon will be strong as well. And I think that'll be good for the market. So, time will tell, but I've kind of been stuck in gear for some time, and, from a neutral perspective and just kind of evaluating what our next move is from a market perspective.
Doc, you actually think we have seen the worst of it?
Yeah, I do, Mel. What we're always concentrating on. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry,
Dr. J.
Yeah, we called you.
Okay. It sounded sort of similar, Mel. Sorry about that. So Pete and I are always looking for those 3 V's: volume, volatility, velocity. We saw all of that last week during that washout, and we traded 65 million option contracts, Mel, about 20 million more contracts versus the average daily volume so far in 2022, which is, again, at a record pace. So do I think that kind of signaled a washout? And do I think that signaled that it's going to be a tradable bottom? I do. Do we have to retest it? My technicians say on one side, yes, we always retest. And on the other side, I think a lot of the justification, Jason was spot on. You had Microsoft justifying, Apple justifying, today ExxonMobil and UPS justifying. So I think that we're going to be fine, and I think that we probably washed out last week. We're about $2.50, maybe less, from that 200-day again in the triple Q, Mel. I think that's a level that'll be very interesting to watch because obviously since it's above us, that's resistance. If we break through it and stay through it for more than a day, then I think we have our answer.